Howdy, y'all. It's your favorite trainer with a belt buckle, here to help you pass the NASM CPT. And guess what? I'm going to put my YouTube personality away. Not going to talk about my big biceps or giant calves, our gyms, or why you should read my book, How to Become a Successful Personal Trainer, because you can't get a refund for NASM. This 30-minute call is an example of our live classes that are recorded, put into our app to help you pass NASM within 30 days. And you're going to see I take a question such as, I don't understand plyometrics, and I turn it into what you're going to be tested on. Overactive, underactive, the OPT model. I help you focus, narrow down on what you're going to be tested on when it comes to the exam so you can pass it and then move into our course on how to become a successful personal trainer, because that's ultimately what you want to do, is help people. You want to get hired at gyms. You want to learn how to grow an online business. That's where we help you. Textbooks don't help you with that. Let me know if you enjoyed this. If you ever want to sit on a call, just shoot me a message. Have a great day, y'all. Keep showing up. To pass NASM and ACE, those that need to pass NASM. ACE, they're the same. They have the same questions, very similar in the design. Our goal is to get you to pass this 30 days max. Don't waste any more time than that. That's not going to help you become a good trainer. So textbooks don't do that. We're going to go through plyometrics specifically today because some people were asking on the community board. Make sure to use the community board with any questions that you have. Everyone part of the Show Up Fitness CPT, not everyone, I'd say about 50% of them have passed and taken NASM. So it's a good community to get some unbiased feedback, because I'm obviously biased and support Show Up Fitness CPT over NASM or ACE, but I know a lot of you can't get refunds. So let's get you through this as quickly as you can. So if there's specific topics that you're hung up on, we'll tell you to don't worry about it, or ask questions that you can clarify it in your mind. So for example, someone was hung up on reactive training. You're not going to get a lot of questions from this. I said that there's apparently another Facebook group out there that someone spent a whole hour going through this. And I said, that's stupid. Don't do that, because you need to actually learn plyometrics by going through a course from someone who's teaching plyometrics, like someone has a CSCS. We have that opportunity, but you don't need that for your NASM. So all you need to know on NASM is the 3 parts of a lift. So when you look at doing a bench press, for example, when I push away from the ground concentrically, and then when I come back down eccentrically, what is the agonist when I do a push-up or a bench press?
Would that be pec?
Good. Pec major. What's the synergist?
Tricep?
Good. And then stabilizers?
Delt?
Nope.
No.
It's always going to be the rotator cuff. Now, we'll quiz you guys on the rotator cuff muscles. NASM won't, so you just need to know rotator cuff. So when you do a push-up, that's going to be concentric. Pec major, synergist will be the tricep, stabilizer, rotator cuff. Now, when you pull concentrically, what's the agonist?
Lat or delt?
Yep, just your lats would be the agonist, and then the stabilizer would be rotator cuff. What about the synergist?
Your biceps?
Yep. And so the antagonist means the opposite. The easiest example is a bicep curl. So if the weight is that way, or I have a band, and it's tied around here. So you do a bicep curl, and you're pulling it. That's concentric. So we've shortened the angle, that's flexion. The biceps do that. The antagonist is the opposite, that's your triceps. And so some terms that you'll hear is reciprocal inhibition. So the opposite muscle is not working. And that's because if it were to contract, you wouldn't have any movement. Now, when you do something maximal, you'll have what's called a co-contraction, and that's normal. So if you squeeze your biceps really, really hard, you'll see that your triceps are hard. In this example, see on the agonist is my biceps, the triceps are soft. But if I do it as hard as I could, you're going to feel that the triceps are going to co-contract. That terminology is the agonist is the main mover, the antagonist is the opposite. So in this position right now, I'm seated. NASM is big into posture. They like to scare you thinking that you're going to die. So in this position, according to NASM, I have upper cross syndrome. And so there's certain muscles that are going to be overactive in this position. What are those overactive muscles?
Your pec major.
Pec major, this guy,
Your trap.
upper trapezius specifically, and then here.
Your lats.
There's a little helper right here. It's called your teres major. That helps pull you in internally. So those are overactive. What do we do to overactive muscles?
We stretch and foam roll them.
That's done. So that's in phase one. So both of those we're going to do for 20 to 30 seconds. And after a month, you're going to graduate into phases 2, 3, and 4. You choose each phase. You're in there for a month. So let's say, Jonathan, which phase you want to go to?
3.
3. So what is that phase called?
Muscular development.
And muscular development is hypertrophy, essentially. What is the tempo for hypertrophy?
2020.
How many reps?
8 to 12.
6 to 12, that's fine. How long am I resting for?
30 to 60 seconds.
They're not going to ask you like, is it 15, 30, 45, or 60? It's very, very obvious. It's going to be 0 to 60. It's going to be 2 to 3 minutes or 4 minutes plus. And there's just going to be a random answer. That's not going to be it. And so for strength, which would be phase 4, how long are we resting there?
1 to 3 minutes. No.
A little longer. So 4 and 5, we rest a lot longer, 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
As we go up the pyramid, so the bottom, the base, stabilization, everything's stabilization. Everything's proprioceptively enriched environment. We're on Bosu balls. We're doing weird shit. So we're doing that unstable 4-2-1-1 tempo. Then you move up into strength, 2, 3, and 4. 3, we just covered. 4, maximal strength. It's going to be the heaviest, 85 to 100% is the intensity, 2 to 5 minutes of rest. And then phase 2, what's significant about that?
That's when we start doing supersets.
Yep. And a superset in phase 2 is going to be a bench press into a push-up, a squat into a step-up, a pull-up into a TRX row. So it's agonist. That's what a superset is. We also do a superset where else?
And maximal power.
5.
Nice. So that's doing a bench press into a plyo push-up. You're doing a squat into a jump. And so the reactive part, that's going to be, there's always 3 portions, because if you're on the bottom one, stabilization, they're still going to have you do reactive. It's just going to be very low intense. When you move into strength, 2, 3, and 4, it's going to be a little more aggressive than stabilization. Then when you get to 5, that's when you're doing more plyometrics and things that are a lot more challenging. So if you always think of the OPT model as easy, intermediate, hard, it's going to be the same for balance. It's going to be the same for core exercises. If something is unstable, foam rolling or stretching, that's going to be down here at the bottom. So in the middle part, if you're doing a plyo, it's just doing a jump. Load your arms back, jump as high as you can. You can do a tuck jump. So you jump up and then your foot hits your butt. And you do tuck jumps or butt jumps, same thing. And then you do a plyometric variation. They're only going to ask you on tuck jumps or just a regular jump. And then when you get to phase 5, your base of support changes. So imagine these are my feet. All right. So jumping up like this, as high as I can, my base of support hasn't changed. So here's my table. My base of support hasn't changed. So that's in strength. When I do 3 to 5 second holds, not as high as I can, hold. That's stabilization. Hold. Now when my base of support changes, so if I jump over here, or I go right and left like an ice skater, that's power, because my base of support is changing. So if I start here and I end here, and it's maximal, strength. If I start here, end here, and it's not maximal, I'm holding, they'll use the word you're stabilizing or some shit like that. And that's just always going to be stabilization. And then when your base of support changes, that's going to be power. So you'll see how when I do any type of review, I'll always bring it back to 2 main areas. OPT model. You need to know it's 80%, it's 60% of the exam with the assessment overactive, underactive stuff. So if we're talking about nutrition, I'll name a couple things. A, D, E, and K, they're fat soluble, cool. Carbs, 4 calories, fat, 9 calories, protein, 4 calories. let's bring it back to the OPT model. Because if you don't know it like that, you did pretty good right there, Jonathan. When's your exam?
I'm planning in March, so I have some time.
You do. I would, time's money. So the sooner the better.
Yeah.
You got that pretty well. And I get no benefit if you go and take it and fail. And so, when I hear people like you were saying it, like you're there, I'll take you're 75, 80%. I'd like to see a little faster when I say, strength, and you go 85, 100%. What muscles are underactive, being able to name them like that. When you're at that point, you'll be good to go. And so you're maybe another week of the classes, get on Megan's call. And when you just participate like this, we record them because then we send them out to people and I'll say, hey, listen to Jonathan. Are you on that level? So you may be new today and you're like, what the hell? I don't know any of this stuff. You'll get there. Don't worry. In a couple of weeks, you'll be the new Jonathan. And then you're going to start picking it up and being able to go over stuff. And people will ask anything. I really want to know chapter 18. I like to be a dick on, YouTube just to piss people off. But okay, if you want to learn a little bit about it, I'll teach you a little bit. I'm not going to teach you the whole thing because that's what, other courses that we have are for. But just for your own knowledge. So plyometrics, backside mechanics, it's called triple flexion. Triple flexion, you would see like if you do triple extension, knee extension, hip. There's 5 checkpoints according to NASM for human movement. We teach you 10, but NASM you only need to know 5. What are the 5?
Is that the kinetic chain?
Feet, knee, lumbar hip complex, shoulder, neck, head.
So you got here 1, shoulder 2, 3.
It would just go away. What happened?
This position is called front side mechanics. What is that called?
Triple
Still
flexion.
there, Jonathan?
What's that?
Triple flexion. Yeah, I'm here.
Triple flexion, yep. So ankle dorsiflexion, plantar, dorsi, knee flexion, hip flexion. Now, if you know the agonist for this, that's just you're ahead of the game. So the agonist for knee flexion, what is that muscle group?
Your hamstring. Well, your hamstrings.
Yeah,
I'm frozen. Is anybody still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
You good, Steve? So this is anterior. This is posterior. This is called the anatomical position because facing forward, hands open. What is this called right here?
Supination. Pronation. Shit.
Not shit.
Blinked out.
Yes. Neutral. We call this neutral.
Oh,
grip.
neutral.
Alternating.
Okay.
When I spot overhead, I'm going to be using like a neutral grip at the wrists.
Mm.
When I deadlift or when I spot a barbell, I'll do an alternating.
Okay.
So looking at this anatomical view, anterior, posterior, starting from the most distal and inferior. Distal means furthest away from the point of origin. Inferior means below. So again, anterior and posterior. And it's not that I'm talking down, but I feel a lot of newer trainers miss the simple vocabulary when they get hung up on, oh, there's all these different questions. But if you really understand the basic terminology, sagittal, frontal, transverse, orientation, then it's going to make the test a lot easier because then you're not going to get hung up on those words and you really know what they're asking. So if you don't really understand what anterior means, posterior means, superior, inferior, you see that in a question, you're thinking, oh shit, this is the hardest question in the world. You're learning a new language, and that's why anatomy is so important. And we teach it a lot at Show Fitness because you need to know your anatomy to understand programming. If you want your sales to be at 50, 60, 70+%, you got to know the assessment, and they go in that order. The only thing NASM is going to ask you when it comes to anatomy is what's overactive or underactive. It's quite simple. So the 5 most common, what do you guys want to start with? Overactive or underactive? Just say one.
Overactive. Sorry.
Overactive. Another name for overactive is
Tight
tight or
and shortened.
So those muscles, we're going to foam roll, static stretch, 20 to 40 seconds, and then you're going to strengthen the weak ones. So on the posterior side, overactive ones, the gastrocnemius. On the right side, this is what's called deep. And it's a little hard to see, but this is superficial. That's the gastroc. If I remove my gastroc, underneath it, you have the soleus. Together, those go into your Achilles tendon, into your calcaneus bone. Those are overactive. When we look on the anterior side, you have the adductor complex, mainly your adductor magnus, that's overactive. And then you have your psoas major, that's a deep muscle. When I'm in hip flexion, that's the main muscle that's doing that. It's deep inside off of your spine. So here is a thorax view with your rectus abdominis removed. You can see your psoas comes off of L1 roughly to L5, and it comes down and it inserts into your hip. So this is hip flexion that I'm doing right now. And that's the muscle that's bringing it up concentrically. And then on the posterior side, we have latissimus dorsi. And then we have the upper trapezius. Yeah, you have the pec major, you have your subscapularis, you have your TFL, vastus lateralis, they're also overactive. You need to start with the most overactive and know where they're at. Because essentially what you're going to see on the exam is client is performing blah, 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 blah. And they're going to give you some stupid scenario of Betsy does this, they're going to put in her job, a bunch of irrelevant information. You just need to take the little pieces that are going to help you get the right answer. So if it's an upper body movement compensation, we're looking for upper body overactive muscles. If they say short, or if we want to foam roll, if it's upper body and they say it's underactive or lengthened, or we need to strengthen, it's all the same thing. So where we get confused, these aren't, they're a marketing company. These are English professors who write the exam. You can literally go on LinkedIn and find out who writes the exams. So it's going to sound a little weird. If you read the question one, it's going to say your client is performing overhead squat analysis. You notice that their shoulders shrugged up. Which of the following muscles are overactive? Upper trapezius, lower trapezius, gastrocnemius, or your glutes. So all I heard right there is 2 overactive muscles, 2 underactive muscles. One is for the upper body, one is for the lower body. It's pretty simple. What are you going to choose?
Yep. Upper trapezius.
There you go. So if you look at those 4 muscles, like, I don't know, the trapezius, all the trapezius. No, the lower and the middle, those are underactive. The rhomboid major, rhomboid minor, those are underactive. 2 of the 5 that we should know. Gluteus maximus, medius, underactive. Your VMO, underactive. And then you have your anterior tibialis, underactive, which is right here, it's the opposite. So your client does this. They call this pes planus, which is stupid. Dynamic knee valgus. Again, not the best terms. I would never say this to a client. You have adduction in the frontal plane. Frontal plane, AB and adduction. So you have adduction there. Your hips are coming internally, which is rotation. And at the ankle, you have eversion. So I think that can confuse people is because it says your client is doing the overhead squat assessment and they have internal rotation of the hip, adduction of the knee, and eversion of the ankle. How would you fix this? Oh my God, it's so confusing. Oh, it's okay. We're going to do anything that's going to pull you from here to here. Strengthen the glutes because that's what the glutes do. Do a side band walk. Like answer for 99.9% of the NASM questions, stability ball on the wall, squat, curl, press with a 4-2-1-1 tempo. Overactive, shortened, we're going to foam roll, we're going to stretch, and then we're going to strengthen the opposite. So we just got that question for upper traps, and it's going to go into a plyo question. What are the front side mechanics? You need to know triple flexion. The next one's going to ask you about the fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. Then it's going to come back to overhead squat. We're doing the same thing. Now your client is doing the overhead squat and their arms fall forward. Which of the following would be the best exercise to correct this? All that question is saying is what's overactive, what's underactive. The exercise I'm looking for is something that's going to strengthen the mid back because that's what's underactive. So we're doing some type of stability ball, YTA variation, a band pull apart. They have their specific names that they're going to put on there, and it can be confusing. Your client's performing a prone iso ab. What the fuck is that? In my 20 years of being a trainer, I've never called it a prone iso ab. I've never called it to my client. It's a freaking plank. But NASM wants you to know that. Single leg scaption. What the hell? Okay. You got to know the vocabulary. It's a shoulder stabilizing exercise. So if you know the vocabulary, you got to put your NASM hat on. So when you find the answer, you get it, you move on. You got that one. Now it's going to go into heart anatomy. And they want to know what's the pacemaker of the heart.
The SA node.
It's an
They could ask, you could get like 7, 8 questions on the heart or 7, 8 questions on nutrition, but you're only getting graded on like 3 or 4 of them because there's 20, 25 questions that we don't know. I don't work for NASM. I work for a company called NPTI that taught all the material, taught the 4th, 5th, 6th edition, now the 7th edition. They have a pretty good idea of the types of questions. So they take 25 new ones, they throw them in there, they put some new ones in there, and that's how they can it. Takes about 2 hours. You're going to see some questions. You're going to lose your shit. Over to Christy. Calm down. Big deep breath. Parasympathetic nervous system needs to be triggered with breathing. You're not a failure. You're going to pass this. You're a great person. You're going to help people. Think positive, because when you start losing your shit, your heart rate goes up. Release what are called the catecholamines. You're not going to have much on the adrenal system, but the catecholamines are going to be epinephrine, norepinephrine, and then you're also going to get some additional ones like cortisol. Cortisol blunts memory. So then you're thinking, like, oh shit, I don't know the answer. We start just choosing random shit, and then we black out for half the exam. And so when people reach out and they say, I failed, I always say, let me see your report card. Well, how'd you do it? And like clockwork, the 3 areas that I focus and I tell you on the guide, this is the breakdown right off of NASM's website. You need to know the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. That's going to be at 60 to 70%. Look at today's call. The topic from the beginning, I said plyometrics. What do we spend the majority of the time on?
Over and underactive.
Overactive, underactive, went through the OPT model. You need to know the NASM vocabulary. If you're doing a push-up, you're doing a Davies test, which is upper body agility, 36 inches apart, 15 seconds. Shark skill test is lower body. You're jumping into a freaking little grid. You get penalized 4 ways. If your hands come off the hip, that's 1. If I tell you to go forward and you go to the side, that's 2. If I tell you to go forward and you do, but your foot touches down, that's 3. If I tell you to go forward and you can't hit back in the middle square, that's the 4th where you can be penalized. So the exam, when you focus on this, it takes 800 pages of bullshit, puts it into 35, 40 pages that are digestible. Just focus on the exam. It starts with the orientation stuff that we went over. So then when you get into the overactive, underactive, when you get into the OPT model, it's going to go through them. If you have the textbook, someone was just talking yesterday, I'm going to get the textbook. No, don't. It's $200. If you already got it, you can't get a refund. Okay, whatever. But there's no need to waste $200 for the textbook. You'll literally never use it again. You shouldn't use it again. And so I will go through with the textbooks that we have and tell you, here's an example of this exercise. So a bench press, where would that go in the OPT model? The bottom, the middle, or the top?
Middle.
Middle. You can also go on the top if you did power with it. What about a med ball slam?
Power.
More.
Power. What about a ball combo 1?
2.
When in doubt, when you see ball, go 1. So that's going to be a shoulder external rotator exercise or a stability ball, and you're doing they have ball combo 1, ball combo 2. It's for the shoulders. That's going to strengthen any of the mid-back stuff for having your upper traps or your lats being overactive. So we got upper cross syndrome. Lower cross syndrome is your belt buckle's pointing down to the ground, your ass is up, belt buckle down, and then you have pronation distortion syndrome. Here's the funny thing about pronation distortion syndrome. If someone were to actually have this, and I've trained lots of people that do, I don't foam roll their calves. I don't stretch. I don't scare the shit out of them. I come right next to them. I get involved as a trainer. I go, oh, that's great. It's a good squat. I speak in positive vocabulary. I say, push your knee against my hand. And 99.9 of the times they go, oh, okay. That's motor control. And just teaching them to get into that, it's going to help them. I'd say the biggest thing not to take away from NASM, don't scare your clients into thinking they're dysfunctionally having balances. Because now they're thinking, oh shit, I'm really jacked up. I'm insecure because I'm overweight and I'm a trainer who has a water bottle and BCAAs and Tupperware is making me feel like a weirdo. I don't want to give you my money. Or if they do, you spend half your time doing this corrective exercise bullshit, it doesn't work, and your clients aren't going to stick around with you. I can't stress enough, once you do pass, get into some type of environment where we can ask questions. If you don't like the online learning, can't get to an internship that we have, find someone who has a diverse background. CSCS background is nice. Someone's been training for a while with a diverse certification. It's diverse because we were just at Equinox with our group in LA, and there's this guy there, 27 certifications. And they're all pretty much under the same umbrella. That doesn't impress me. That tells me that you're very dogmatic in one way. I want to see some variety. I would love to see a trainer who has NSCA, ACSM, ACE, ISSA. People always give me shit. Oh, you picked on NASM. I have all the certs. I had them at one point. I've done ISSA's corrective exercise. I know Dr. Waterbury. I've done everything under the sun with NASM. I think that there's some people in the organization who are really, really smart. If you have an opportunity to learn from them, great. But don't read a textbook from them. That's a little different. John Russin, he has a great weekend seminars with the PPSC. Dr. Pat Davidson, awesome stuff out there. If you can learn from Compound Performance. He was a manager at Crunch for 10 plus years. Now he has his own education company. Super, super brilliant dude. Girls Gone Strong. You want people who are doing what you want to do that have been doing it for a long period of time. And if anyone's really dogmatic in one cert, you got to be a little careful. So you guys are just starting out. You're in a really great position. Use that fire to really get out there and start learning under proper supervision, and you'll absolutely be able to make this into a career. You don't have any questions about today or anything? If you're watching this live or recorded on demand, the place at the bottom of the platform, you can go into the community board, which is the second link. So if you pull up the app, you can see right when it pulls up, at the very end, this video will be right here, and it's going to be right there. The community board here, you can ask questions on it. So I want to ask about, maybe you want to take a photo of something and say, Chris, can you explain this to me? I don't understand it. Or Megan, or hey, what are your guys' thoughts? Ask the trainers in them, because these are all people who are actually training, whether if they're in our CPT program, our mentorship, going through our nutrition course with the registered dietitian. Some people are getting their CSCS. We have a map that we developed 12 months because 90% of textbook trainers quit within the first year. And that's what we want to change.